This week in comic books, what's more exciting than watching John Constantine die? How about a sword wielding, smoking chimp and a little detective hat? So cute. Also, Immortal She-Hulk came out this week, and I'm all about the so what on that one. And what's the name of the book? Hotline Miami came out this week, and oh my lord, thank you for taking me back to the 80s. All that and a lot more comic books right after the intro. Bump it.
He has studied psychology, yoga, tai chi, the art of war, and combined them to form this.
What's going on, you wonderful weirdos? I'm Pocan Joe, and as always, you're pretty cool for swinging by. If this is your first time on the channel, basically what I do is I buy a bunch of comic books, boom, and then I read them all, and then I write a bunch of words down so my boss thinks that I'm working, and then I come at home and I regurgitate anything interesting, cool, good or bad back to you. So without further ado, let's jump into this comic book haul this week. So yeah, let's go ahead and start off with Action Comics. So basically, what happened in this is our Invisible Mafia. Um, the super family's had enough of them, right? The FBI has raided the Daily Planet. If you've been following the storyline, I know a lot of people have fallen off of DC, but this is actually a pretty fun story. A character in here named Malone, or as I like to call her, the not Oprah Winfrey.
You're white, you can't understand this. This is something different.
She wants to play victim all of a sudden and wants to go complain. She claims that Lois Lane is actually an alien and needs to be arrested because she's starting all kinds of problems. In the meantime, the super family, and I'm like all of them, are trying to find the Invisible Mafia. With all that said, a parasite-like alien who has defeated Superman in different dimensions has been unleashed from Star Labs as sort of a battling thing. The Red Cloud is all behind that, along with some other people. Connor, the clone of Superman that hangs out over in Teen Titans, yeah, apparently he gets it handed to him really quick by this particular character. So it being a parasite, what will happen next? It's a classic Superman tale with all the fixins of all your favorite super people in it, I guess is the best way to say it. So it was okay at best.
Let's go. Let's move it.
Batman, Superman. So we're getting launched into this, and so we're on the moon. Yeah, they're on the moon, and they're battling Brainiac, and apparently Brainiac has basically taken a bunch of villains and kind of zombified them or robot them. They do that thing, and making Superman and Batman battle them out until the equation wears out, right? Because that's how Brainiac thinks. Run them through the different scenarios until something finally breaks. So who best to save them out of the entire rogue gallery and the superhero gallery? Who best to save Batman and Superman?
What kind of question is that?
I know you had a bunch of solutions. You know who they picked in this? They picked Steel, the knockoff Superman made out of metal, and Batwoman, because God knows we just can't get enough of that character. Anyway, it's about as presumptuous as you would. A cryptic message from Batman that was finally released from the moon to get down there because he's kind of doing a comms thing up there, doing Batman stuff. Sends a message back there to his own Batcave, and apparently it was all broken up, and basically he was saying, don't come to the moon, right? Because, it's real here. Like, this is hard, and we don't know how long this is going to last. Set up the forces there for when the ultimate battle comes. And, of course, Batwoman and Steel being, I would say D-listers at best.
I heard what you think.
In DC lore, they misunderstood the message because it's all scratchy and staticky. And they're going to go take off to the moon. Them two are going to go save Superman and Batman. That's a thing in here, I guess. Ugh. All right, moving on. As I said at the beginning, I don't know what it is about Detective Chimp that just makes me happy. It's such a ridiculous character. But in here, again, he's smoking with cigarettes and doing hood rat stuff, and he's carrying his little sword with him. John Constantine bites it in here. We get Madame Xanadu. She's in here. She's reading people's tarot card, foreshadowing everything that's going to happen as they battle the upside down man in here. And Then all of a sudden you get this long-winded monologue from the heroes. When did heroes start monologuing so long? Like I know it was always there, but usually it was an internal monologue. Like they're all just kind of jumping in. It's kind of like when my wife finishes my sentences for me. She thinks they're right, and I'm just like, yeah, you're right.
You know what? Remember it however you want to, and I'll remember it how it actually happened.
Anyway, so that starts happening here where they go on this big long rant monologue about belief and how we have belief and we'll win because of belief. And Upside Down Man's like, yeah, no, I'm going to drop a body. So he drops John Constantine, who dies with a smirk on his face. Apparently it's part of some underground plan that we don't know of yet. I'm sure they'll catch us up. But other than that, it's a pretty good story. I didn't really mind it. I don't mind the whole mystical realm stuff, even though it's not really my normal reading.
Because you rock, Joe.
Luckily, we have characters that kind of save us from that getting into the everything's a spell thing, that often happens. All right, so this speed metal. So this is interesting.
He's trying to get me to see another one of his PowerPoint things. That stuff creeps me out.
So apparently Wally West yells out the speed formula, which, by the way, I worked out. It actually has, and the answer is muhahaha. Well, I'm gonna make a video on that. So Wally West screams out the speed formula, and he's with a bunch of other Flashes from past, present, and future. You got Johnny Quick in there. You got the Zen guru himself of speed. Garrett's in there, and they're all running through the Speed Force while the Batman Who Laughs and a bunch of evil Batman Who Laughs / Flashes are chasing them.
This has gotten way out of hand.
They need to come up with a plan. They need to come up with a plan quick. So, we yell out the speed formula. And what happens? Everybody freezes except for the Flashes. They're able to move around. That's because they're a veritable hint on things to come. So, and they come up with a plan, right? So they were going in this direction to get away from them, and then they realized, well, we need to go back to the Morbius chair. So we need to go back into the problem, which actually works the equation. I can only drop so many hints.
I play at expert level.
So they were back to go get into the chair to hopefully fix everything. Wally West, we finally get to stop hearing about him whining, not having his friends and families and memories and everything, because he basically got all that back because Speed Force. Whatever, I'm not going to harp into it. All in all, though, good story. Good story about, living up to your own expectations, I think, is a good example of this, or how your expectations should be your capabilities and not because of what you see somebody else do.
That sounds like therapy to me.
Because him and Barry Allen seem to kind of have it out in here a little bit in like a weird argument. It was awkward, but it made sense, and it's things that people go through. So definitely pretty good. This is a 1 in 25 variant right here, by the way. And it costs a little bit, but I'm happy that I got it. All right, next, Juggernaut, going into the Marvel. Scotty Young, so my wife's super happy. I was able to get her a Scotty Young hair. My wife loves Scotty Young art. So the Juggernaut's back, and apparently he's doing the typical hero arc thing. The hero's journey, right? So the hero's journey, conquest, has to face death, fears, learns a lesson, comes back evil, right? But then there's kind of like this other arc that often happens. It's usually in Westerns where some time has passed and they wish to have a more simpler life.
No, Joey, just...
like a farm or some mundane job that's not as exciting as it used to be, right? He's mellowing out. And then they always kind of find like some kind of mentor role in some young person's life or some kid's life, somebody younger than them.
It is not a problem. It is a circle of life.
That kind of happens in here with a character by the name of D-Cell. First appearance of D-Cell in here. Her powers is she can slow down kinetic energy. We like to use the word kinetic energy inside of comic books to pretty much explain everything. But in this, she can basically slow things down that have an energy signature to them. And she talks about how she had her own YouTube channel, or not YouTube, but RoxTube, or whatever they have to call it to not call it YouTube. And they film their pranks and everything like that. Well, they're in this area where it's just slummed out, right? And the Juggernaut's kind of mundane job now is to, like, demolition. He right? Juggernaut. Demolition. He's got to go destroy these buildings that are falling down anyway, so everything can be rebuilt. You got a bunch of squatters. D-Cell's one of the squatters in there. And of course, there's the hero-on-hero conflict that kind of happens. And he's like, hey, kid, I can help you. You have powers. I've been where you've been. Yada, 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 right? Let me mentor you type of thing. So that kind of happens in here. And it looks like they're going to be hanging out. I like this. I like that kind of storytelling. You know, you got the old wise guy. You know, maybe he doesn't quite understand what YouTubes are or the high-end technology, but he has life experiences. So the two can kind of play off of each other as we go through this. So, yeah. Why not?
You know, what I'm really interested in is hearing about how you feel.
Okay, next. Fantastic Four. Number 2 for Antithesis. I'm trying to follow this. Like, I want to be in this because I love Quicksilver. By the way, right? Somebody was like, what's that right there? I was like, it's his board. It's the reflect. Never mind. You're smart enough. You would have gotten it. Anyway, in this, Antithesis shows up into the Fantastic Four's universe. And apparently he's pretty strong. Like, he whipped up on old Galactus there. Galactus has just been a punching bag in comic books lately, hasn't he? Like, he was a ship for a bunch of... Anyway, that's a whole nother story.
Fantastic.
Anyway, whips up on it, and then apparently what he does is he takes free will from people. He feeds off people's free will and ultimately makes them an army, so he's building an army throughout the universe. And the Fantastic Four almost get stuck in the negative zone, but the Silver Surfer's able to get them out, so... Yeah, we're still kind of world building here to some degree, and we're trying to throw some action in it. Love the artwork inside of this, kind of reminiscent of back in the day type of Fantastic Four stuff. But it's typical Fantastic Four, in and out of the negative zone, constant enemies. The reason why they had to go to the negative zone was to save Galactus, because apparently he beat him so bad he changed him back to his humanoid form. He's not human. I think it's Gallon. Beat him so bad, turned him into a weakling, and now they got to get him back and make him Galactus again, so they at least stand a chance against Antithesis.
Now it's a party.
Confused yet? It's a Fantastic Four story. A lot going on all at one time. But still, good read. I don't mind it. I hope kind of issue 3 we get past a lot of the explaining and we can actually tell the story.
We have a real problem here.
Yeah. Immortal She-Hulk. So, you know how sometimes if you watch a series of shows or you read enough comic books, they always have that one random issue that's kind of like a flashback issue, you know, where you kind of go back over the years. And yeah, right? Real popular in the 80s, but it's a very common thing to do.
But
normally you don't do it with the first issue. In this one we do. She-Hulk apparently is having a little bit of a breakdown. She knows she's died a few times, so they had to retcon some stuff into that, and with the Green Door. You know, she traveled to the place below and saw the Green Door, and she kind of forgets things here and there. She's died 3 times. So
Crazy, traumatic.
so she wants to hook up with, well, not hook up, but she wants to have a conversation, you know, just her and Wolverine over some beers, and kind of sit around and just kind of talk about it. And she's like, you know, how do you handle dying? You die every other week and come back. And Wolverine gave what I thought would be some sound advice. Don't sweat it.
Sometimes we forget how to do the easiest thing in the world.
Like, it's everybody's done it. He literally kind of hinted towards that in here. But apparently it's affecting her because there's something more than just dying going on. That I'll give her credit for. We kind of see the first, and basically that's all the story was, really. It was the 3 times she died and what happened in the in-between stories. I just wasn't into it. I was like, and there was actually a claim in here that, you know, she's a better Hulk.
Excuse me?
I know my truth.
You know, because, Hulk, whatever. Yeah, I just wasn't on board with this. I'll probably end up picking up issue 2 just to see if, okay, so maybe they're just, you know, preloading it, right? You do that comic book story. You preload a story, and then kind of let us know what the leader's kind of doing. The truth is that Immortal Hulk has been standing on its own for a while. I don't understand why you got to just... It almost feels like this is being wedged in there to say, hey, look, other things are happening.
I feel your anger, yes.
And you know, and you need this comic book. Which comic books do it? I get it, but this by itself is not a standalone story.
Now you said harness it. Boom.
Okay, Maestro. Boom. We find out who the Maestro is. And we also find out it's not an old character. It loves comic book collecting, or comic superhero collecting stuff. We also find out that one of his grandchildren, they literally named him Gramps in here. We don't know his real name yet, but we know one of his grandchildren can pick up the hammer, and he's not too happy about it. He's like, don't ever pick that thing up again. And who is Maestro? This is where you want to stop if it's going to be a spoiler for you. For
That'd be the biggest ass you've ever seen.
the rest of you, it's Hercules, and that is awesome because they kept referring to the Maestro as a god, right? They're like, you know, he's our god, he's our this, he's our that. And Hulk's like, yeah, whatever, I need to meet this guy, right? So he travels to the city and he's like, oh, it is a god.
Yes! Yes!
It's Hercules. So really cool. I love this kind of post-apocalyptic. After the war, they made it sound like there weren't no humans left. We find out there are. We get a quick snapshot of Machine Man. He's in DC with a small batch of survivors there. I don't know why we keep force-feeding Machine Man in the stories. Like, I get he can be a cool character, but didn't really. I mean, I see why he's in here, but we didn't need it. You could have stuck it with any. You could have stuck Rom in there. Like, oh, look, Rom survived a nuclear blast.
I think there's been a misunderstanding here. See, we signed up for the fun stuff.
All right. So, SpiderMan Noir. I've been picking this up. I love these kind of stories. This kind of alternate take on all Marvel characters. So, in the last issue, we found out that the Dane, you can't review this book without using the language in it. It's impossible. She double-crossed Superman and everybody else. We find out that the pilot is actually a Wakandan warrior. That just literally came out of nowhere. Just, oh, I was like, okay, cool. Something cool is going to happen. And it did. They found their waves into, it's kind of like it's kind of went from a spy story to an Indiana Jones story now. Because now they're in the crypts and they kill a giant cicada.
I'm not really sure I like that one.
Which, that was actually kind of cool. To get to this particular cicada stone, they unlock a door and it literally unlocks like death, right? Where death is. And we see these kind of 1940 noir versions of various heroes coming out of it, and Peter Parker's like, no, you're dead. Also, apparently whoever touches the stone, they kind of get morphed into like this monster type look. Pick it up, to flip to the back and take a quick peek, and if you're like, yeah, no, I don't want to read this, I don't know what to tell you, man, because it's pretty good.
What was that?
All right, speaking of good, so yeah, Venom number 28. This is interesting because
Let me just find it in my notes here.
we find out Annie, his old squeeze, but she's in another dimension. A lot of openers in here. I'll go ahead and we're going to run through the spoilers right now. So, if you haven't read this yet and you're like, no, I don't want to read it, shut up.
You are the ass.
I'm not. You just might want to pause it and then come back later and get my load on it. So loads of reveals in here. We find out Annie's team in here is actually Peter Parker, Cassidy Claytis, Carnage, Wade Wilson, Deadpool, and Andy Batten. So that was kind of cool. So, it's an alternate take on that. They're all Venomized. Let's see here. Annie's backstory. Oh, yeah. And this particular universe, Eddie Brock actually killed himself in the church or whatever they're calling it, in his original Earth. He changed his mind at the last minute, at the symbiote, that kind of thing. In this one, he killed himself. She goes to the church where he killed himself, and she got infected with Venom. So that was kind of cool. Different take on that. We also find out that virus, man, we were hoping that was like some cool character out of nowhere. Come to find out, it's the Scorpion. and Codex changes him into a Venomized worker bee for him. And also, finally, who is Codex? It's not. A lot of people were saying it's Null, it's a version of Null, blah, blah, blah. Nope, it's actually Dylan.
Problem. I don't know what goes on in that dude's head.
Yeah, Dylan Brock is the villain in this one. That's why everybody kind of freaked out when they found out that Dylan Brock, the one we know, is there. And they're like, your codex here is like so weird. So lots of twists, lots of turns, funny moments in here. Good read. Venom has not let me down yet. I think there was like one issue I was like, eh. Okay. So I dropped X-Men a long time ago. When it came back out, I think I read the first 5 issues. I got into a little bit of the Powers of X and the House of X. And then eventually I just fell off. And then the Sword of X thing kind of popped out of nowhere. So I was like, okay, let me read it. And apparently I got a little catching up to do. But this is a 1-per-store variant right here. Again, sent me back a couple of bucks.
Well, what is it made out of? Wheel tusks?
That's okay. I like my rarity if I can get it. So we find out that Apocalypse family is kind of like an Alabama trailer park family, where even the grandkids are going to knife you.
I'm sorry. I wanted 5 minutes of your time. I'm so sorry. You got kids, you got guns, you got grandpas.
It's ridiculous. So Apocalypse's children are back, and they're attacking this kind of in-between place between the 2 islands, right? And there's a person that runs this, and what was her name? It doesn't matter. She's pretty crazy lady. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. That sounds right. Anyway, she runs this particular place. Apocalypse kids are trying to take everything over. And, of course, the X-Men show up to try to stop things. And what do we end up with? A contest of champions. Apparently she has tarot cards, too, of some sort. And they get explained throughout this thick book, by the way. It's a pretty good read. So now we're going to have a contest of champions against Apocalypse's kids and the X-Men. And they got some things they got to do first, like gather their swords or their champions or whatever. And then in 3 days, they're just going to battle it out. Basically, we're going to have a giant sword fight. I'm on board with that. Pretty cool. Each side gets 10 people. We kind of know who's coming on the X-Men side, but these other characters that are coming into play, they're all relatively new. So who knows who they're going to choose, if they're going to choose in-house or if they're going to go outside of that. And where does Apocalypse's true allegiance lie?
Man, totally. Me too. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Ooh. And also the island of Krakoa, of course, wants to be made back up to its partner island to be whole again at the same time. How does that end up turning out to work? I don't know. So I'll probably read a little bit more of this. I may be back on with X-Men. We'll see. Next, J.J. Abrams' son. I think that's what we're supposed to say.
Screw him.
Sure. Yeah, they finally came back out with their issue number 4 of their take on Spider-Man, and this is actually interesting. It's good. It's good. So our villain in here apparently just wants to reanimate his wife, so he uses Spider-Man's blood, and it like deforms her into a spider. And there's some ugly pictures of her in here, and she knows she's ugly. And she's slightly insane.
How bad can it really be, right?
So they use Peter Parker to bait their son, or his son, into the situation. Tony Stark and Riri Williams are doing their best to get things kind of to assist in some way, shape, or form. They're building something. I'm sure it will be some gamma, super, uber duper ray, whatever the case may be. And the Tagger, that's what we're gonna. That's the name she gave herself. Why? Because she tags things, Sully. She's got spray cans.
I don't know what's going through my mind. I'd love some ice cream.
She's in here. She's about the most annoyingest thing in this comic book. It's like, you need to come up with a plan. I'm trying to come up with a plan. Well, you need to do it faster. Shut up. Like, what? So, let's see here. Oh, yeah. Hotline Miami. Boy, if you never lived in the 80s, you need to go on and pick this comic book up. Because it was literally cocaine, Uzis, and Russians. That's my review of this comic book.
I don't think you're quite understanding me.
So apparently a guy gets, he's donating money to some organization, and apparently enough to have him noticed. that's gonna stop the Russians from invading us, right? That's kind of their tagline. And the guy's telling his friends, and you know, him and his girlfriend doing coke in the bedroom. Yeah, they just randomly threw that in there.
I peed.
And then apparently they give him a call. And they're like, "Would you like to do more to help?" And he's like, "Yeah, whatever to stop the filthy Russians, man." And so they send him a box, and it has like automatic weapons in it and this little mask in it. And later somebody gives him a call and is like, "The pipes need cleaning over at blah 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 address." And this dude's freaking out. So he goes to the house, and that's where it cuts off the story. This is fun. It's fun. I love the dialogue in it. I love the storyline in it. It's not going to be a read for everybody.
Joey.
Yes.
But if you can, just flip through it. It's great. Let's see here. And last but not least, I got this, what is this called? An Unkindness of Ravens.
Which is an absolute disaster.
So this is Witchcraft Mean Girls meets Charmed. And Sunnydale.
And even then, it's cold. It's emotionless.
all kind of rolled into one. So there's a girl, she's new to the school. She looks like a girl that disappeared. And there's two groups, right? There's the mean girls, you know, it's like the rich girls, the pretty girls, the jocks. Then there's the other girls that are literally witches. And they also, they're kind of like punked out, right? Like one's wearing an eye patch or all, you know, whatever.
Other weird stuff that's not feeling, it's just more talking in short half sentences.
The other side of the tracks, kids. And she's in the middle. And they're both like, both groups are like dawning over this girl, like, which one are you going to hang out with? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh my God. It's so just, it's not even a CW. Yes, I'll go. It's a CW show. Lessons will be learned. Kind of regret picking up the one per store variant on that one. So, that's my comic book haul this week. Don't forget, Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the YouTubes, you got Blaster Stashing, where myself, Huey, and Spectacular Spider Grandpa.
No, and you don't want to be with those guys, honey.
We're going to talk about some of these books. We're going to talk about what we liked about them, what we hated about them, and what makes it different than this review is we got a live chat where you can come in and you can talk with us. So again, that's Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jump into the chat. Let us know what you read, and more importantly, what did you think of it? All right, guys, I got nothing else. I got to get out of here. I got a thing. I got to go do. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Yes, I got your blood pumping, yes? No?